We spend a fortune on pre-sheeted butter. I mean, it's a small fortune. If we can make our own butter sheets, we save a lot. And that's what this thing is all about. It's actually a butter press. It can double as a divider, a grid divider, but as a butter press, this comes down, this goes up, and we press butter. I've already learned some things from the tests that we've done. I'm gonna try something a little bit different today. One thing that we learned was that when I press 4 butters like this, once they get on the sheeter, you see all the seams in the sheets. And so one thing we're going to do today is let the butter stay at room temperature a little longer before refrigerating in hopes that it merges better together. We just sort of have to decide what is going to be the future of this, because there's just a lot of savings at stake. You see, I'm currently milling flour and I'm working with this butter, doing 2 things that are beneficial to the business.
And it's quite counter modern culture, where you outsource all these things to be more cost effective.
Yes.
And then people stop thinking about it and they get cheated because it's not.
What I'm going to try to do today is just a little bit different, is create a pattern in the press that's more overlapping. I'm hoping that that means that there won't be any seams for the laminator, or that they will be less pronounced. So now I add the second sheet, close the lid. At a certain point it feels like you've squashed it maximally, won't go any further. You gotta release it. And see, it's not perfect, but this is something that we can work with on the sheeter. And the question is, will the seams be better than last time? So now I take this sheet and I move on. Grab the next 2 sheets. Of course, the other benefit is I can use whatever butter I like. So I'm using a European style butter, a high fat butter that I can buy, and I have way more choice because there's like one supplier that we could get, you know, not even really reasonable priced laminated sheets of butter or pre-sheeted butter from. Now, I mean, anybody that makes butter in blocks or even big masses of butter, I could potentially work with, just whatever our preference is. So it is a pretty big advantage. It amounts to very large cost savings for us. And you know, right now with all the investments we've made in the business in recent times, we're definitely looking for ways to save. If you're making croissant dough, you need to have butter sheets. There's no way around that. In the beginning, our butter sheets were far too thick. Back when I first took over Proof, and the lamination was very poor by hand, you know, at home. The thick butter at the wrong temperature, it's too cold, cracked often. You really have to have the right amount of thinness. Before we bought the fancy sheeted butter, in order to save time, we were taking like 20 minutes to make one butter sheet. It was like, we would unwrap, we would go through our dough divider, smash, then go to the sheeter and spread it out and cut the ends, and then sill pats, and then this. So basically this is a much better tool for what we're trying to accomplish. You know, all we have to really do is unwrap the butter, put it between 2 parchment pieces and smash it. And between two parchment, it's already between the 2 parchment pieces at that point. We can stack it and we can ship it off to Mesa, where it's going to be used with all the rest of the croissant dough sheets. So, you know, the other thing to consider is when you have a little bit more control over each step, you can get more creative with the process too and try new things. I was looking for this press for a little while. It's almost painfully annoying when you're like in a garage looking at equipment that you can't afford that might make your life easier someday. And when you first realize it, like I first came across these butter presses years ago, and well, I don't have the ability to invest in that kind of thing. And to be honest, right now it's still a stretch. We bought this really nice one. It's a Ram, which is a great brand of divider. And if we don't use it, we're paying for it. If we use it, we save money on butter. If we don't use it, we're paying for it and losing the difference on the cost of butter. So there's like a pressure to get these things in play, which is why I'm working on this and why it's a priority for me to be pressing butter. We have to get the process right. ProBake is like a great dealer for a lot of European equipment, and RAM is a European company. The thing is, this is a pretty specialized piece of equipment, and so in order to justify it, you better be pressing a lot of butter. I'm hoping to get a dual use out of it for English muffins. I got myself a grid that matches our English muffin squares, and maybe for the first time since the original iteration of the English muffin, we'll modify the process, because it's one of our few unchanged processes. Okay, that was 12 minutes. I talked a little. I still could move a little faster. I think I could get it down 10 for 10, like 1 minute a sheet. It used to be 18 minutes a sheet in order to do it individually. And yes, Sadkaram is helping by unwrapping, so maybe you have to add another 30 seconds per sheet. If I was to do all this beforehand, unwrap, cut, and then just fly through sheets, I think we're talking about 1:30 of human input to produce 1 sheet of butter for the bakery. And like get faster with space optimization. You have the right surfaces, the right areas. So I'm gonna let the rest of this, I'm gonna unwrap these with you, and we'll let these rest for a little while. Pressing butter is gonna be a big job around here. Right now we're using 13 of these boxes a week in Mesa just to produce our croissants. So anytime you have extra time, you got 3 more cases of butter that we're gonna try to go through by the end of the weekend. The thing about proof that's challenging is we do things the right way. And that generally means we do things a way that requires more knowledge, more care, more cooperation, sometimes more energy expenditure. I don't think that I chose this just purely for some sort of dollars and cents. I want to make some sort of a meaningful impact in my community with the products we make. And the way we do that is just the attention to all the details in the process.
From that intuition of doing something real, science has repeatedly backed up what you intuited already.
Yeah.
Like, it's way better to digest. It's really doing good to our system instead of bad. People who think that couldn't eat wheat, actually all of a sudden they can eat wheat.
If you'll notice, I'm trying to batch my activities. So if I'm unwrapping the butter, I'm unwrapping the butter. If I'm cutting it in half, I'm cutting it in half. The more I can batch my activities, the more efficient I move, without a doubt. This facility is new for us, so we don't have it like fully organized well yet. Those are all things we have to work out and improve upon, because that's what makes a 12-hour day unnecessarily, when we have a lot of work to do and we don't have it very, very well organized. One thing to note about working at Proof is there's enough work that even as a newer employee, you will be doing some tasks independently. You won't always have somebody looking over you saying, oh, you're doing this well, you're doing this not well. There's more employees than there are leaders always, and so it's important to remember to speak up if you're having trouble. This is not the kind of place that you will get punished for saying something's wrong. We actually only work on transparency because there's 3 bakeries working very closely together. One bakery can't really function without the other. And as a result, like for me, where I'm monitoring all 3, the only way that I know how to act is by getting like real honest feedback. Like there's a problem here at the Shea location, somebody's struggling. So don't ever feel like you have to be too brave to manage something you haven't faced yourself without support. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this, help me, help clarify something. I know in some places it's like maybe people are used to getting yelled at if something goes wrong. Things go wrong here all the time. It's, after all, like this Satkaran was saying, it's kind of this magic biology. We're all working very hard. And it seems like we're the ones doing the work, but when you actually zoom out, there's millions of microbes that are working around the clock for us. And we actually don't have that much control over them. Like, we can only influence the environment that they're in. So today we're doing the largest pizza run that we've done to date. I think it's 40 pizzas that we're making all in one go here. That might not seem like a lot to a pizza shop, but for us, like 40 in one day, hey, that's a lot. We're, in addition to serving lunch here, we're taking them to my tennis tournament tonight. And there's gonna be like 150 people. We're gonna be serving pizza and trying to talk about proof. So we've got to get these all baked to a shell, and then we're gonna top them, bake them. And the cool thing about Roman pizza is it's so thick, it stays fresh for a really long time, you know, out in the case. The typical way of serving it is to reheat and serve by the slice. So we're gonna take it to the tournament, reheat in their ovens at the cafe, and serve by the slice. And Amanda and I, along with Carolina, who used to be like really a well-known front of house person for us in Mesa, we're gonna introduce Proof Roman Pizza to a lot of people that live nearby. So I do expect to have really nice pizza today. It's actually gonna be ready to bake relatively soon into the pies, meaning the blank shells from which we can top them. So it's gonna be an interesting day of pizza. This is tomorrow's batch that we're already preparing here for all the facilities. I'm actually currently folding Litchfield Park pizza dough. Here's the Shea pizza dough right here. Satkaram's working on the Mesa pizza dough right now. This pizza dough is now going through, I think it's third fold, no? Yeah. It's looking really nice. And it's ready to go in the fridge now.
Just separating them so they cool down evenly. If you keep them as stacked like this, the top one and the bottom one, they will cool down, and the ones in the middle, they will stay warm much longer. So just out of getting an equal result.
If you underdo this shell, if you don't quite get it gelatinized, you put the ingredients on top, bake it again, the shell collapses and it looks like it's raw. And it's, you know, an unfortunate result. So now we're kind of being more careful, and it looks like 17 minutes did the trick. So we've got more pies coming. Pizza, pulling more of those mass amounts of pizza shells out. And we've got a topping party going on in the back right now. So we got a lot of pizzas to top today. Temping those sheets, ensuring that by the time we top these aren't gonna collapse on themselves. They are gelatinized on the inside. The reason we do this two-stage bake for the pizza is actually because we want like an open, airy crumb. And so we want basically to make a bread and then transform it into a pizza. Some people call this pizza bianca, or you can, I guess, call it a sort of focaccia, except we haven't really baked the top very much. You can see that we keep it light, so that way it's got a soft interior, and we can then blast it with top heat during the second bake.